Hey y'all, I'm Shalon Burris. Welcome to Sip and Slay with Shaloncè, where we live, lash, and libate through real beauty conversations. All right, babes, let's talk for real. Today we're going to be talking about education. Not education as in, let me explain myself real quick, and not the education that you are hoping they understand. We're talking about education that protects your work, your time, and your reputation. Because if you're constantly educating after something goes wrong, that's not a difficult client. That is a breakdown in leadership and ownership of your business. And that's what we're going to be fixing today. So today we are sipping the Midnight Bloom. The flavor vibe is floral, dark polish. Now she's soft but intentional. She's quiet but powerful. She looks expensive before you even get to taste her. This drink is about presentation with purpose. So this is how we dress her up. We are adding 2 new spirits to the drink essential list for phase 3. We're adding whiskey and dark rum. Everything else you should be able to find in your essentials list from previous phases. We are adding fresh orange juice for the citrus and prickly pear for the puree. Let us get to it. For this drink, the Midnight Bloom, you need 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 ounce of prickly pear syrup, 1/4 ounce of elderflower liqueur, 1/2 ounce of fresh orange juice, 1/2 of a fresh lime. Rim your glass with smoked salt because quiet luxury still speaks out loud. Add all of your ingredients to a shaker with ice. Shake with intention, make it smooth, not aggressive. Strain into a chilled coupe and garnish lightly. Make sure you hold her like she's expensive. The flavor note is floral, shadowy, and elegant soft power with a bit of a dark edge. She doesn't bloom loudly, she arrives. Midnight Bloom. Enjoy. So let's clear up a misunderstanding that keeps artists stuck. Just like education, sometimes there are steps to education before education begins, also known as prerequisites. Education before does not only mean before booking. Education before means before the outcome. And that is what matters, because real education doesn't happen perfectly staged in front of a classroom. It happens in real time. It happens when your client is laying down and you notice something off. It happens while you're working and you pause and say something to her about it or him. Hey, I want you to know this and understand what might happen after you leave today. It happens when you stop, take a picture, and explain what you're seeing. Hey, let me get a picture of this really quick so I can show you after. It happens so that they understand it before they leave. Now that's education. So when someone gets home and says, hey, my lashes did X, Y, and Z, no. Remember when I told you? And remember the picture that I showed you? And then remember when we addressed it before it became an issue? See, when you do that, that isn't you explaining after the fact. It is you educating before the outcome. And here is where artists start sabotaging themselves because they feel like being firm is being rude. They feel like clarity needs to be softened. And they feel like professionalism requires endless grace. And it doesn't. Education has to be given clearly and on time. And then that's when the responsibility shifts. That's not harsh. That's what we call structure. And the same logic applies to time. Appointment reminders, that's education before. Policy sent and signed, that's education before. Confirmations required, education before. So when someone shows up late or disappears with no call, no show, I'm not explaining a policy, I'm enforcing the agreement. And if you find yourself consistently and constantly explaining, apologizing, or negotiating, that's not because clients don't understand. It's because your standards are inconsistent and not firm. Education isn't about talking more, it's about talking at the right time and then standing on it. Now let's go deeper. Client behavior reflects what you allow. And I know that's uncomfortable, but it's true. If clients are always late, if no show, no call keeps happening, if people are suddenly confused about policies, that's not random, it's inconsistency. Education works best when it's paired with documentation, because documentation turns education into protection. Photos, notes, verbal confirmation, real-time explanations. Once it's documented, it's no longer your opinion, it's the record. So when someone says, well, nobody told me, well, first of all, I'm the only one. It was at this very moment that my microphone went dead and I kept talking and nothing recorded. So I am not getting ready to re-record this. So we're just going to go ahead and let me do all my talking over top of this like a voiceover. So what I was saying was, there is no one else to tell you the other rules except for me. So of course I told you. Yes, you were told. Yes, you were shown, and you acknowledged it. At that point, I'm not debating any outcomes. I'm honoring what was already communicated, and here's another truth that artists do not like to admit. Explaining after the fact trains the clients to push. The more you explain, the more they negotiate. The more you soften, the more they test. That doesn't make them bad people, it just makes them human. But leadership means you don't manage behavior emotionally, you manage it structurally. At Shador, we don't chase, we don't rescue, we don't re-educate after the outcome. We educate clearly from the beginning. We document confidently and we enforce calmly. That is how your reputation elevates. Not by being nicer, not by being rude, but not by bending also. It happens by being consistent. When your systems are solid, your business gets stronger. My favorite dentist that I used to work for, Dr. Nishimura, always used to say, if I discuss it before, it's an explanation. If I discuss it afterwards, it's an excuse. So at Shador, we adopted that same model. And what we say is, we will educate first so there's no explanation or excuses after. So here's the toast. To artists who stop explaining themselves into exhaustion. To education given before the outcome, so explanations are never needed after. And to standards that protect your work, your time, and your peace, cheers to that. Now, next episode is going to be where we start talking about license, literacy, and leadership. Because education is what sets you apart when everybody has a kid and an Instagram page. So make sure you catch Sip and Slay on Instagram Live, TikTok, and YouTube. It'll also be on replay. Sip and Slay, babe.